Opposition does want to see a world where overpopulation and the downsides that come with it to be solved and restored. But the proposals given by proposition side has so many flaws that it will only cause further damage to rural and urban areas alike. Ladies and gentlemen, opposition wants to take a poke at a couple of the potholes of arguments that this House believes that governments should provide significant financial incentives for urban citizens to move to rural areas and why they should fall. We will start off with our rebuttals that are stemming from two main issues in proposition's proposal of the topic. One, they rely on just the migration of people first and foremost before anything else, and thinks that everything encompassing a supporting and sustainable city will appear whenever the people are. But it isn't as simple as that. Proposition has also not stated anything about how they will prepare the new people that come into said rural areas to integrate themselves into the new environment. This problem will branch out into a plethora of major issues that opposition will be delving into. The first major flaw inside of proposition's arguments, it is the part where they said that they will move people first, then build infrastructure over that. But they also said that the people who will be moving there will be people who are financially challenged because they said they are drawn to that sense of opportunity and success. Ladies and gentlemen, if you move people who are financially challenged into another area that isn't as financially dependent as their original urban cities, what is your proof that that area will flourish? How can those people who are financially challenged grow in a city where the infrastructure for them to grow hasn't existed yet? It has only existed after everyone has started moving. This is something that proposition has stated time and time again. Since proposition wants to do it after everyone has started moving, there will be a transition progress, as they have said, to make this happen. There are major problems with this. One, what happens to those people that have already moved into the area but are still waiting for other people to move in? They won't get their proper support and infrastructure until at least a couple years later. Two, proposition side has no target for when this transition is to be completed. If proposition has no target for when they want to finish their transition, then the people who have been staying there, staying at the rural area for years will see that there is no proper system for them to live in, especially since they came from such a complete and structured ecosystem. After that, they will choose to go back to their respective homes in urban cities to fulfill their lives and to return to that complete system, even if they live in slums. The next issue is the housing situation when they do move there. What will happen to the people who are paid to go there, but are not paid to have houses or land, but don't have anywhere to stay? Since they are financially challenged, as proposition says, they will not have much to go off of when they do move in. Even though it is a rural area with cheap land and cheap property, a lack of a plan or system to integrate the new people with the current rural area will create confusion and dismantle the current socio-economic condition of that rural area and will put many people into poverty. Again, since proposition says there will be a transition period, which could possibly take years for everyone to move in, how will proposition integrate the new people with the current dynamics of the rural citizens? Proposition has stated that metropolitan cities cannot sustain themselves because of the lack of resources. Now, proposition doesn't provide a set amount of people that may transition, let's say, per year. Disclosing the fact that rural areas among the world are all different, a proposition doesn't have a set amount of people that are allowed to move at a time. Suddenly, rural areas will have a large influx of new people coming in with no means to accommodate them at all. This will put a strain on the resources, such as the rural schools, the rural hospitals, and other services. Back in the urban city, if suddenly a large amount of people left the city, what will happen to the businesses there that rely on customers as their source of income? A disruption of urban jobs and services will occur, and this will hurt businesses on the long run. Businesses will have to shut down, employees and even higher management will have to be let go. They will have to find better jobs, or worse, they'll fall into poverty. Now, ladies and gentlemen, imagine a scenario where a bunch of people from an urban city, for let's say an example, New York, moves to a rural area with a little supporting infrastructure for their high maintenance lives, such as Alaska, let's say, or Wyoming, for example. There is the problem of suitability. Not everyone is cut out for that urban city. Rural areas may also not have the infrastructure available, such as healthcare facilities, schools, transportation, education, and etc., to support a sudden increase in population, leading to a strain again on resources. Now, proposition also stated that they don't think the amount of money being given to urban cities to move is important and should be touched upon. Well, it should be touched upon, because what happens when we have an unlimited budget for a program with this scale? There will be cases of unreported funds, corruption, and money going the wrong direction. Now, proposition has showed us that there is no clear lack of thought and planning that went through their plan. Yes, you do need people to move out of the overly populated city, but not until there is a sufficient reason other than the proposition's plans. By just giving them money to move out, how will they commit to the change? There needs to be a ready system for them to be able to easily transition and live comfortably into. The reason people are in this overly populated and dense area is because the economy, the infrastructure, the community is there to help and sustain their lives. Now, upon my rebuttals that speak and stand as arguments alone on why only relying on monetary incentivization to move people is not sufficient enough, I will give extra points, and opposition will give extra points. Things such as environmental damage that could possibly happen in these rural areas with the increased pollution of population will occur. Now, what are we going to do? Since proposition has stated that this is a joint effort and this is a problem that we all need to solve together, opposition would like to give a much better counter proposal. The first one is the rural development of said rural infrastructures and rural areas by improving access to healthcare, education, transportation in the rural areas. These areas will become more attractive for urbanites or urban people to live in. But we also have to think ahead as to not repeat the same mistakes that caused these people to move out into these rural areas in the first place. And that is the lack of planning for infrastructure, the lack of resources, overpopulation, and etc. Now, opposition proposes a sustainable plan and sustainable development plan for the new rural areas to alleviate the strain on just urban infrastructures and to create a new area where a city is able to sustain itself. Now, the government should choose and select the types of rural areas to use by using surveys and professional counseling and advice from environmental ministries to help determine where to set their new investments in and to not disrupt the ecosystem. Along with that, opposition also wants to recommend creating regional development plans that consider the interconnectedness of urban and rural areas as to ensure that both of the areas have smooth transition periods. And then after that, we can create a information planning system to provide informed decision to citizens so that they can know what they're getting into instead of just blindly giving them money to move. Now, opposition believes that this is the way to properly tackle the issue and the topic that is originally trying to solve, not with blind handouts, but with proper and time-investing development for those rural areas to grow and prosper. This is the way we have a more safer and reliable migration to said rural areas, and this is the way to consider for proposition so those rural areas don't fall. Thank you very much.